back to episode 36 of Tall Boy Radio. This week, we're going to be talking about something I know absolutely nothing about, but fortunately, I'm joined by two guys who do, and that is gambling. So let's start every episode as we start every episode by saying hello and sharing what we drink. Gaza?
Hi guys, great to be back again. Looking forward to this episode, I think. I am drinking, and it might be a little bit boring, but I haven't drank on TBR for a while. Just the bog standard sort of bud. However, out of official TBR merch, and if you look closely, official TBR merch T-shirt, which is available if you visit our website, which is, and it's on the T-shirt, which is tallboyradio.com. So go and visit our website and grab yourself a T-shirt.
It's quality product as well, isn't it, dude?
It's decent, mate. Honestly, I'm like really pleased with the quality of the merch. T-shirts are great, and if you've listened or watched in a previous episode, we sort of previewed and sort of spoke about a couple of the merchandise available, which, you know, so you can grab the TBR mug. There's laptop case, there's T-shirts, there's hoodies. The hoodies are fantastic, and if the winter nights are closing, and the hoodies are brilliant, really good, decent quality. So, as I say, get yourself along to tallboyradio.com and have a peruse and a browse and see what tickets you fancy.
Top man. Andy?
I'm drinking Old Rosie in a... I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, you can see it now. There we go. A BR.
A BR. Because despite the advice to not dishwash the glasses.
I can actually say for once I wasn't responsible for that.
Yeah, and also just to make it very clear, the shirt that Andy's wearing, if you watch it on YouTube, not available on TBR.
No, not at all. Ad, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking, dude, original Stormtrooper Galactic Pale Ale. Not a massive fan of pale ales, if I'm honest, but I thought I'd give this one a go because I am a big fan of Star Wars, and it's, you know, it's not bad. It's a dark one. Yeah, it's a dark one, and it's a little bit weaker than the one I was drinking the last episode out, which was 7%. Go for it, dude. This one is about 4.9, I think. You know, 4.2, so even weaker. Yeah, so not a bad one. Not a bad one.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Yeah, no, nice. There's a what I don't know what the ingredient is. There's a smell. There's like a, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's so citrusy, maybe. Yeah, maybe citrusy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has. Pale ales again. I like an IPA, and the IPA I was drinking last time. We didn't talk about it, but the was it Pangaea one? It was really, really good, and you tasted that pineapple, which I also thought, you know, this would go lovely on a pizza. But afterwards, the taste of the IPA, actually, to be honest, as much as I do love the taste of pineapple, I'd like to taste that IPA without the pineapple in it, because it was a really good quality beer.
I just before we crack on with this week's episode, and I should have done it in the last episode, and I apologise. We mentioned the sort of discussion over Facebook as to should pineapple belong on a pizza and stuff, and I have to give a shout out to Vron. So Vron Thompson, who is an avid listener, she listens to all of our podcasts, regularly gives us sort of feedback on what she thinks, and she's a massive believer that pineapple should go on a pizza. I happen to massively disagree. And she's also got in touch, and she was listening to the if you were cooking a 3-course meal, what would it be? And who would your guests be? And I think she said she would go for sort of sweet chili chicken to start, and then she would have I think she said a steak, and then like a homemade, I think she said like a cheesecake or profiteroles. And then she also mentioned her 3 guests, which actually were decent. And there was, I think, Stephen Fry was in there, and Tim Curry. And I can't for life remember who the third one was, so I apologise, Ron. But Stephen Fry is a great shout.
That is a good shout.
Like a great shout.
Yeah,
and there's a couple of people that he's, I suppose, a little bit Marmite in terms of, some people might think he's a bit over the top. I could listen to him for hours. So Bit of a shout out to Veron. So if you're listening, Veron, thanks for your feedback and thanks for getting in touch. Please keep listening, spread the word. And Daz, little Daz, also known as Tyrion, if you're listening, get in touch with who your 3 guests would be and what meal would you cook. And we'll have no mention of Naked Cooking Tuesday. That's banned from TBR Radio.
They might be, but I'm intrigued.
Well, I can get Daz on. I can get little Daz, and he can talk all about. And I won't go into any detail. I'll leave that to Daz. But yeah,
okay, yeah,
the mind boggles. But on a serious note,
one for the future.
Thanks to Ron and everybody else that commented on the Facebook strand. So Amanda and Fozzie and Jason and all the other people that commented. It was a great little chat. And as I say, I think in a previous podcast, I lost the battle. But pizza's great. Pineapple pizza, not great.
Although the people have spoken.
Although people have spoken, and I did lose that. But yeah, so just want to say thanks to Veron, really. She's a massive supporter.
And to Big Titty as well, who shared his.
Big Titty, Big Titty, yeah. So, yeah, can you remember who he said?
I know it.
Brian May was definitely one.
Brian May was one.
Dave Grohl was definitely another one.
Dave Grohl was another. The other one was Shiner. And that,
right, okay.
And that put me to shame, because you said, like, name 3 people you have at dinner party. Not once did I consider you and Andy.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's just how good a mates we are.
That's shameful. Though.
It is shameful, yeah.
And it's literally...
To be fair, Veron did say, well, obviously Daz had our view there, and I was like, no, you can't have that because I'm at 5, so you have to bin Daz off. So obviously it must be love.
But yeah, when Big Titty shared his, it was literally first one. He said, has to be Shana, can't do anything like that guy. I love that guy. It's like, yeah, I feel a bit bad.
But the thing is, with 3 guests, well, I say 3 presenters, not guests of TBR, then you've only got room for 1. Ken. So my perfect meal would be me, Adam, Andy, Ken. Yeah, okay.
Well,
I see that. Yeah.
Dependent on what Boris says as well. As this episode drops, we should be out for a TBR curry as well.
We should be out for a TBR curry.
Let's see what Boris says first.
When's that? A couple of weeks. So the rule of 3. There's 3.
Yeah.
So
week on Friday.
Does Ken come back, by the way? Or not?
He's letting us know tomorrow.
Okay.
If he can get the time off.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so that would be good. Either way, we have a few beers and a curry. We'll sort something out.
Yeah.
We have to go sit in a park and do it. Then
we'll
do it that way.
Yeah.
Legally, Boris. Legally, TBR. We don't mess around with the law. We're good, honest folk.
Absolutely.
So, with that said, then we move on to the main subject of tonight's podcast, and it's gambling. Now, we've mentioned it a couple of times. We talked about, obviously, I've visited Vegas a few times, but I don't gamble. The wife does, and has actually had varied success at doing it. She's played the old fruities. Yeah, and back in the day when we were at uni and college together, I used to love playing the fruit machines. Yeah. But the reason I don't gamble isn't anything to do with religion. It isn't anything to do with whether you look at the morality of it, and probably we'll get onto that a little bit later. It's nothing to do with that. Ultimately, the reason I don't gamble boils down to one thing. I'm tight. I hate giving money away with the prospect of getting nothing back for it. I'll happily spend stupid money on making a vinyl.
You say that though.
Go on.
The prospect of not getting anything back, but there is a prospect to get something back.
There is.
So what you've just said there is actually factually incorrect, because there is a prospect to get something.
What's the likelihood?
Well, that's it. That's a different argument.
It is a different argument.
But so factually, the likelihood, maybe. But the prospect you get, everybody that plays the lottery of a weekend.
So do you play the lottery? And
is gambling.
It's technically gambling.
It is gambling. Because there's a prospect to get something back. Now, the likelihood, I take you back.
Yeah,
I take you point.
50.
You're more likely to get hit by lightning or whatever it is. But there is a chance. And the prospect of you winning something that can potentially be life-changing and so on. So you look at all of that. So I sort of pick you up on the prospect of you winning something. Yeah, absolutely. There is a prospect. The likelihood, and they're 2 different things.
Yeah.
Do you gamble with absolutely no chance of winning and that's just throwing money away? Or do you gamble with a chance of winning? Yes, you can. but is the likelihood there?
My just to clarify that point, then my beef is with like I could go into a casino, I could drop £100, and to walk out of there with nothing to show for it, even though, like you say, there is the prospect of winning a lot more out of that. Like you say, many people. If we talk about the biggest casino win of all time, it's from $100 spent in a casino, and the guy won. Whereas I made my notes here. $39,713,922.25 off $100 invested. Now, probability of that happening is quite unlikely.
Absolutely.
But the idea of walking in, dropping down 100, it goes down to like when the wife says, "I want to do this for the garden," and it's going to cost 5,000. It's like, no.
You need to do it because we just had our garden.
Oh, yeah, your garden.
Our garden's amazing, man. So whatever she says, just get it done.
It's like 5,000. I can have a holiday for that money, and it's what else? I always look at what could I do with that money. I could buy £5,000 worth of tats from TBR.com.
But it's interesting because it's interesting. Like obviously we've had a few visits down to London with NFL weekend, and Andy's been with us, and we've had a great day. And by hook or by crook, who's end up in a casino?
We always end up.
It's my.
I was about to say, by hook or by crook or by your volition.
Somehow it always pops up on my phone. It's like, oh, it's here.
Yeah. Although I will say Andy's a fairly willing participant as well.
Yeah. And so look, I like a gamble, and I suppose I've always liked to gamble. And the dangerous thing for me is I have got quite an addictive personality. Like, if you speak to sort of Jenny and actually sort of one of Adam's younger brothers, John, who I used to knock about with quite a lot when we were kids, and it's a bit weird because I used to knock about with sort of John and Sid, who's my younger brother, used to knock about with you, possibly more younger.
Yeah.
And me and John quite regularly would go to a boozer and we'd have 20, 30 quid in our pocket, and we would have one pint and we'd throw the rest in the fruit machine. And we would be entertained for an hour and a half, maybe, give or take. And if we felt as though that wasn't working, we'd go to another place and put some money in there, blah, 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 blah. So I do have and have had, and probably still do have, an addictive personality.
And you're quite a competitive person as well, aren't we? Let's be honest.
And yes, I've gambled. Yes, I still do gamble. Yes, I probably will continue to gamble. But I've got to a point where I'm quite happy with rationalising how much I gamble compared to what potentially that loss would be. So years ago, when I was a kid, 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever it was, you'd be like, I've got 20, 30 quid in my pocket. I'll gamble 20, 30 quid. And if I lose it, I lose it. And actually, I probably haven't got much else. Whereas now it's like, well, I can't gamble that because I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got a house, I've got a mortgage. And so I've got a handle on how much I gamble and how often I gamble. And if you speak to Jenny, she will say that I have an addictive personality and I do gamble. And
we talked about in social media. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Jenny said she felt you were addicted to social media as well, didn't we?
Yeah, and I do have an addictive personality. And it might be something that it could be social media, and I'm addicted to. It could be gambling, could be booze, could be not that I'm addicted to booze, but it could be a number of things. But I do have an addictive personality. And has it ever got me in trouble? No. Have I been able to sort of stop it? Yes. Without other people sort of talking to me, would I have been able to stop it? I'd like to think I would, but then obviously you hear horror stories of people racking up debt and times are different now. So times are, you can't log on, you can't watch TV or log on without seeing Paddy Power, Bet365. You know, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Twitter as well.
And it's all this. You feel as though you're getting something for nothing. So it's all this. You deposit £10 and get 100 free spins on the casino, or whatever. Well, the casino's got now to do the £10. You put £10 into your sports account, which means you're going to bet on Liverpool to win or Arsenal to win, which might happen in the
minute. Get your money back, yeah.
But the free spins is the casino bit. So your free spins the casino bit. So that makes you want to go to the casino bit, and you have your free spins, and it's like, oh, do I transfer the money I've just put into a sports account into the casino bit? And there's all that suggestive sort of stuff about your free spins, and it's all free. Well, it isn't, because to get that, you still got to deposit money. So it isn't free.
No.
You know, you can't open an account and have just no bookmaker. And there's the old expression, and there's a couple of guys from Witchwood who we used to sort of bet and talk about football and stuff. So Mark Callan, Rob Barrett, in particular, those two and me. And it used to be hashtag, and excuse my French, shit as sport betting. We'd put on our hackers for the weekend and they didn't lose, and hashtag it'd be shit at sports betting. And then I think it's Mark Hallam, Bono, he's known as, and he then coined a new phrase like "never see a poor bookie" or ever.
It's true,
and it's true. You know, bookies always make money, and they make money because people are shit at sports betting. So, you know, and I mean, I suppose it first started. You know, you sort of play football over the weekend, and then you go into the Mia with Dave and Debbie, sticky carpets and all that, and. You everybody chuck in a couple of quid, and you'd have your football coupons or whatever. You'd have your 3 aways or your 5 homes or whatever.
I used to do that.
You did, yeah. So and that's what you did, and you just chuck, and then you'd sit and the football was a bit of a byproduct, and you'd be having some beer, and you'd be playing some football or some foosball or whatever, and then the football scores would be coming in. Oh, I need Accrington to score and you'd be like, wow, what are you doing? Like, seriously? But that's what you did. So I suppose it stemmed from there, and then I got into the poker. Bad mistake. Really cost me not loads, but cost me a bit. And I'd be sitting there, you know, $10 a tournament. I'd be doing that a couple of times a night, sort of thing. And I got to the point, I was like, what am I doing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is just stupid. There's better things. And I was lucky in as much as I recognised that. And I suppose it must be really hard for people that they don't have that recognition.
The off switch.
Yeah. And it's like, I'll chase. And I was quite lucky that, and don't get me wrong, I've chased the odd bet here or there, and that's something you should never do, never chase a bet. And if anybody's listening, never chase a bet. Only bet.
Sorry,
no one.
Just one thing I want to chuck in. When I was making my notes for this episode, I said to Kim, I said, I'm going to do an episode on gambling. What is the one question that you have that you would want to ask? And she said, like, because obviously, you know, you gamble. I ain't got a problem with it. I ain't got a problem with people gambling, you know, on the morality side of it. If you can afford to do it sensibly, I've seen you and Andy both gamble, and you've both done it sensibly. You've not done anything stupid on the times that I've been with you. But Kim's question really was, and it's to both of you, Andy Smith's making away over there. Have you ever walked away and thought, got sucked in that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the last time we went to London, so when I first joined you for the NFL, I set aside, like, I can't remember much, like, say 150 quid or whatever. And I thought, right, I'll just spend this. And if I lose it all, I lose it all. If I win, whatever, fine. That time I did win. I think I only spent 70 quid and won, I think 150, 200 quid or something like that. And the last time, I think I had 100 quid, and I thought, right, I'll just do this. Same again. I messed up. I like the roulette, and I normally just do like pound chips on whatever and spread it about, and I do all right. You know, you start building up, and you put it in your pocket, spend out the other pocket, sort of thing. And then last time we went, I started doing fivers, getting cocky. I was like, throwing these chips down, and then I spent that 100 quid or whatever it was. In like 10 minutes, I was like, no, this is crap. It's cash machine. And I was like, another 100 quid. And I think it was 250 quid. It was all money that I set for the weekend anyway. So it wasn't like like my beer fund or anything like that. It was just like money I set to the side. But yeah, when we walked out that time, I was just like, I just kept like you say, don't chase the win. Because I did all the fivers at first, and I was just like, I need to win something. And I was there like withdrawing money, bang, 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 bang. And I think I pretty much lost it all then that night. And I wasn't too bothered because like it was money I set aside, but I was annoyed that I should have just stopped at that £100 mark and gone. I was going to sit down with snoozing ad in the corner.
Yeah. That's what snooze is, partially unconscious.
Yeah, similar to Andy. There's been times when I've been in a casino and you might have said like, "Go on, there's right." So, and I always used to say, if you're going to go to a casino, don't take your credit card, but go with two separate pockets. So you've got your betting pocket and you've got your beer and your food pocket. So your betting pocket should only really ever be what it is that you've set aside that you can afford to not afford to lose, but you've set aside. Yeah, I'm going out with the lads. I'm going to have a good night. I'm going to spend £100 or whatever. But if that £100 means that your kids, your wife, whatever, go without food, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's only what you feel as though is it reasonable. If somebody else looks at it and go, well, that's not reasonable. But what you feel as though at the time you are sort of prepared to lose it, and never mix your pockets and never go like, well, actually, you know what, I've got that food and beer money there, so that I'm a bit down, so I'll bet some of that. Go with the set budget in mind, and once that budget's gone, walk away. And never, and there's time. Look, don't get me wrong. There's times when you think, I'll take out another £50. So I think the maximum I've taken out over and above what I actually planned to take out, £150, maybe. So maybe I don't know whether it was down in London. I don't remember. I've gambled so much. I don't remember. But maybe I've gone out to London and maybe I had £100 in my pocket. I thought, that's what I'm going to gamble, and then that's gone. It's like, okay, I'll take another 50. And you probably tell stories of seeing me do this. I'll take another 50. I'll go to the cash bar, take another 50. So
I think that first time we went down to London was probably the only time I ever really seen you go back to a cash machine. Yeah, probably the only time as well. I've ever seen you go
okay, but. And there's a couple of times when lads with the golf club and stuff, you go up and it's like, I'll go back, and probably £150, which is, maybe some people listening to this will think, oh my God, that's peanuts and stuff. And other people might think, oh my God, I could no way afford to lose that. So everything is relative. And, that £150 was actually, that might be me in terms of my disposable income going short for the next month or whatever. At the time, and it was never, that means I now can't do something for my kids or my wife or whatever, but it might be that instead of going out for the next month 3 times a night, 3 times a week, I might only go out once a week or whatever it may be. At some point down the line there would have to be sacrificed to pay for that. Yeah. There's been impact in that. So but I'm at the stage now where I actually don't do that. And genuinely, my heart goes out to people who are genuinely addicted to gambling, because it's a horrible addiction. And I don't know the numbers, and I possibly should have done a bit of research. What I do know is it's having a massive impact on people's lives. It's having a massive impact on mental health, having a massive impact on personal debt. And, there will be stories of people who have not quite gambled their house, but, have got to such a point where they're gambling regularly. And you only have to look at, and I don't know whether this was the route we were going to go down, but you only have to look at people like Paul Merson, footballers that have money. Who's the guy that played for, was it... and please, if this is wrong, I apologise. Was it Matty Etherington? Matthew Etherington. He ended up playing for Stoke and
Matt Etherington.
And he basically has written a book, I think, about his addiction.
So I know Mercer's talked heavily.
And Mercer, I know, has talked heavily about it, and and obviously he had disposable income, and it leads you down that very dark route of you have all this disposable income, and then when that's gone, what do you do? Do you then effectively gamble on credit? And that's what he was doing. He was like, okay, I haven't got the money on me, but I'm getting paid another 20, 30, 40 grand next week or whatever at the time. Now you'd be talking 200 or 300 grand a week, but at the time, do you know what I mean? So I'm good for it. And you would almost gamble on credit, sort of thing.
Well, I've been to the Gold and Silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, and sat in there is a Super Bowl ring from a guy, and nobody there will tell you who the guy is, obviously, because you've got that level of anonymity with that industry, who basically had turned up at the night window that night and sold his Super Bowl ring for $4,000 to carry on because he'd run out of credit at the tables.
Wow.
And it still sat there, so he's not picked it up.
Wow.
So don't get me wrong, it's a great pull. They're never going to sell that because you're going to go in there to see a genuine Super Bowl ring.
Wow.
And that is mind-blowing. And just going back to, like you say, affecting people's lives, I lost a member of staff just before the pandemic kicked in, who I caught stealing, unfortunately, and stole 4 figures from me. And he was spending that money on scratch cards. And that I cannot get my head around. When I see this, and I'm not going to share where I work, who I work for, or where I work, but I see people coming into my shop on a daily basis, spend £2 on electricity, £3 on gas, make the kids put the sweets back, buy a newspaper, buy a can of Monster, and then spend 20 quid on scratch cards. And it's like, gee whiz, you could be spending 20 quid on pieces of cardboard. You've got no value.
I didn't know whether or not I wanted to sort of go down this route as such, but for me, it's like people that gamble and various family members go without or whatever. And as you say, kids, you've got to put that back. Kids, you've got to put that back. And you see people, kids, you've got to put that back. I'll have 20 Benson and Edges. Well, hold on now. That's, I don't know how much 20 Benson Edges are. What's 7, 8, 9, 10 quid or whatever?
10 quid.
10 quid.
Over 10 quid.
Over 10 quid. Well, just give up that.
I know.
Just give up that.
And listen, look,
I'm
not high-minded about it because people say, you know what, you should spend enough on beer, dude.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And look, and please, people listen to, I'm not.
No, I don't judge.
I'm not judging. I just, it frightens me the sort of level of addiction you can get to in terms of. You can be addicted to nicotine, you can be addicted to alcohol, you can be addicted to drugs, you can be addicted to gambling. It's exactly the same thing. And I know it got to such a point in America that they actually stopped online gambling. But you just can't do it.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I think you can now. I might be wrong, but it got to a point where literally it was like against the law to online gamble. In terms of,
well, in some states gambling's illegal anyway.
Yeah, into some poker rooms and all that sort of stuff, and I don't know the legislation now, but it got to the point where they were so concerned about the debt that people were accruing that effectively they said, well, you can't do it anymore. What bugs me a little bit in terms of currently in the UK, obviously with 3 guys in the UK talking about it, is it's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
It's everywhere. And you can't go for an ad break in the middle of a drama on BBC One, ITV, Sky One, without seeing an ad for a betting company, gambling company. And I know you can't do it before 9 o'clock, because that's how the rules and stuff, but the 9 o'clock ITV drama, whatever, Bet365, Paddy, Ladbrokes, they're all there. There.
It's something I find mind-blowing. It seems to be something that's become prevalent really recently. I'm never saying it's never been culturally acceptable, because I think it always has been. It's always been there, but now it's really at the forefront. And because it's all online, you're actually seeing bookies closing on the high street, which you never saw in the past. You know, a bookie opposite my shop just closed down recently because it's all online.
Yeah.
You know, and they're taking all the money there, and I guess that means then it's more accessible.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the increase in technology, with the increase in people buying phones, tablets, whatever, and with the increase in the development of apps and available media, it makes it easier. But interestingly, it makes it easier not just for, and this is the archetypal person that gambles, the 18 to 30-year-old white male. You've got, and I'm not going to mention any websites through fear of any libelous sort of claims and such. But you've got various websites that you can play bingo online.
That's bizarre, isn't it?
You can play slots online. Whatever it may be, and it's like they're almost targeting like not just the white male 18 to 30-year-old. It's now the housewives. If you're sitting at home doing nothing, go online and gamble and play bingo. Well, is that just a development of culture, society? Is that a development of the gambling companies in terms of recognising a niche market? And you look at some of the TV adverts, and again, I won't mention the company through fear of libelous claims. They look at not just your typical white male advert. It's your Afro-Caribbean females. When have they been ever been associated with gambling before? So it's it's there, it's in front of us, it's smashing us in the face. It's only ever going to get bigger. It's a massive, massive, massive issue in terms of debt, personal debt, in terms of personal mental health, personal physical health. What we do about it, I don't know. Have I suffered from it? Yes, I gamble. Yes, I still do gamble. Yes, I will continue to gamble.
You're still playing poker tournaments then? Obviously, you said earlier.
Actually, no. Rarely. And if I do play in poker tournaments, it would be what you class as home games. So it'd be like me, you, and Andy playing or whatever. So I think the last one I played in was 4 weeks ago, and it's like my cousin and my cousin's wife and guys that I know, and it's like it's online and it's a tenner. Chuck a tenner in, and there might be various. You can rebuy for an extra £5 or an extra £10 or whatever, but you're not going to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. You're talking, you might spend £20.
So just before we go to Andy, then we talked to Andy about online gambling. I just want to share a comedy story actually, because I think we talked about it before, but not this house. The house I owned before, I bought off Gaz's dad, and Gaz's dad is, as we said, a little bit of a character. And he used to run some, just friendly, not-for-profit gambling organisation. You get guys around playing poker. You'd have a few tables set up in the house that I bought from him. And when he was showing me around, I tell you what, we'll have a table here. We'll have a table in the lounge. Probably get one in the kitchen as well because it's nice and spacious. Probably get another one there in between. Honestly, it's a great night. It's fantastic. Just out of interest, when you buy the house, is there any chance we can continue doing that? No! No, there's no chance whatsoever. And that's just me. You just wait till the missus hears that question.
I love Big Ray.
Big Ray. Nobody else was asked that question other than Big Ray. That's why you've got to love the guy.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's shit. But look, and it's weird because back in the day, he used to run, and I don't know if he still does it now. They always race nights and stuff where you would get like.
Big Ray's race nights were famous.
They were brilliant nights, and you'd get projected horse races, and you would bet on which horse you thought would win. And so, I suppose Is there a light-hearted side to gambling, good fun? But then, is there a distinction?
There is. If you're sensible, of course there is. If you could, like you said before, if you can afford to lose it, then of course there is. You know, you can afford to waste £10 on a can of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you can.
Yeah, and that's I suppose it is about that knowing the limits and I know the online companies and the TV companies now. You Bet 365, your Paddy Powers, your Sky Bet, your Ladbrokes, your William Hill, a number of others. They're all very much gamble responsibly, take a break, never chase a bet, and all that. But they're still advertisers. They're still trying to get people to spend money on effectively gambling, which is, okay, you can put this money up and you might have a chance of winning. And just before I'm going to go to Andy, to me, there's a distinction in gambling between gambling where you have, it's basically just luck, i.e. roulette. There's no skill involved in roulette. I know people will come on here and argue and say, yeah, there is, but there's no skill in roulette. You put your chips where you think and the ball will spin and
it lands where it lands.
It lands where it lands. The flip side to that is the skill gambling, which you could argue is more your blackjack type gambling. Okay, you have a certain control over the outcome. Do you stand? Do you what do you bet? When do you bet? And to me, there's a distinction between the two. Football betting, loads of people will turn around and go, yeah, but I know about football. I know that Arsenal playing at home are likely to win, and I know that City playing at home are likely to win. So I'll go on them.
But here's the thing that gets me. Here's the thing that gets me with that, because I'll pick the ones, and I'm not going to say I know football. Anyone who listens to that football episode, as Weaver will tell me, doesn't. But Super 6, there are people who do consistently score 27, 30 points every single goddamn week, whereas I'm happy with 16. But those are people who do. But before we get into that, go on, Andy. Tell us a little bit then. Do you gamble online? Is that something you do? Have you ever played in a poker tournament? We'd just be curious to know.
No, I don't do any of that. I think after we went to the NFL that time, I think I did some roulette online for a while. I think that's how I got the money the second time we went. I won a bit. I think I won 200-300 quid, so I just put that in the pocket and that paid for the next London trip. But yeah, generally I don't really gamble. I haven't even done it since last went to London, to be honest.
You see, and that's like, so Andy's a typical, like, I would
2018 though.
I would say that opportunistic gambling. So he'll gamble, he's prepared to sort of lose 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever he said. But then if he wins, he's crap with that. And so he won't think, well, actually, I've won that. So if I bet that, I can win more, and I can win more, and I can win more. You get to a point where, and people who are addicted will think, okay, so in the last hour, I've spent 50 quid, I've cashed 50 quid in or whatever, and I've now got 200 quid in my pocket. So that, 150%, whatever the maths is, profit. Just walk away. Just walk away at that point. You started with 50, you got 200. That'll pay for next year's trip. You rationalise that in terms of that will pay for next year's trip. That'll take the kids to the Trafford Centre and have a shopping spree or whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? But your addicts won't. Your addicts will say, well, I've made 150 quid in the last half an hour. If I play for another half an hour, I can make 500 quid. And that's the chasing bit. And then all of a sudden you start to lose, and you start to lose, and you start to lose. And then all of a sudden, by the next hour, instead of making 500 quid, you're now another 100 quid deep. And then the next half an hour, you think, well, I've lost 150 quid or 200 quid or whatever. I'll take another 100 because if I win, I can get back to level. So therefore, I've had a good night. I've had 3 hours of gambling. I've had some beer. I can walk out of that casino and I'm level. But of course that doesn't happen. So then you walk out that casino 300 quid down, and all of a sudden you're thinking, holy moly, like I'm 300 quid light this month. And what impact does that have?
See, you say you've got an addictive personality, but I actually think you've got a pretty good grip on things.
I have got a good.
If you can think like that,
yeah,
this is how this personally affects me, rather than I've lost 200 quid. I need to find a way to win that back.
Yeah,
that's the right approach.
It is, but I think I've developed that. And if you speak to Jenny, I think in the past I might have. I'm telling you now, I have chased bets before now, and I might have put something. You know, I've taken more money out of an account and tried to chase. But it's always got to a point where I've thought, this is bollocks. Like what am I doing? So I might walk out of the casino 200 quid down. 200 quid at the time for me years ago was like a lot of money. And it's like, oh shit, what am I going to do for the next month? I'm 200 quid down. But it was never, oh my God, I'm going to go hungry. Or it was never, my kids won't have X, Y, or Z or whatever, you know. And there are people that think that. And there are people that will gamble and will chase and will get to a point where it's such. Don't get me wrong, when you win, the high is amazing. You win and you just think, like that euphoria, you know, if you're playing, and it doesn't matter what stakes you're betting, and I'll tell you an interesting, funny story-ish. You know, if you're playing roulette, and when I play roulette, I always bet sort of similar sort of numbers. And when that number comes in, or those numbers come in, you're like, yeah, yes. And that euphoria is like, but I've got to the point now where if I win big on a roulette, if I ever get what I would call cash chips, so your £5, £25 chips, they go into the pocket, and I just keep on the table the 50p or pound chips or £2 chips or whatever they are, whatever casino you're in. So I bet with them, and then when they're gone, whatever's in the pocket, I'll just cash. So you might have 4 or 5 £20 chips in your pocket, but I've got to a point where I think I can rationalise that. Whereas years ago, I'd be like, oh, I'll just change that 25, and I'll get some more chips and I'll bet more. I'll just because I only started 50, and I've got 120 in my pocket, so like I sort of can bet that 70.
And it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter because that's where. And if that's how you rationalise it, then fine. But then don't dip into the next 50, and the next 50, and the next 50. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when I think about gambling as well, obviously Kim plays roulette when we go to Vegas, and it's been a few years now, obviously, without having kids. But the last time out, you told a story of a lady who placed a bet late.
Yeah.
So the one story I always think of when we go to Vegas is Kim was gambling, like same as yourself. She doesn't bet big, so I think we were on like the $5 table. So you put down $5 per one, is your minimum bet, and literally the guy just about to spin the wheel. This dude just sits in £5 grand, £5 grand, £5 grand, £5 grand, £5 grand. Actually put down about 50 grand. And it span it from bang, like what walked off. And Kim's like, wow. I was like, wow, what a balance. You know what I mean? 50 grand. Buy yourself a Corvette. Do something useful with that money.
You interrupted her. She was going to go, wow, what a balance.
Possibly. No.
So the story that Adam mentioned, and it was years ago, and I was betting with 50p chips, pound chips, whatever. And I was like, oh, put one on there, one on there, one on there. So to be fair, I'm now, my gambling has evolved. So, but I might have chucked on £4.50, £5 a spin or whatever it was, just spread around. And there was this Chinese lady, and if croupier fits even the right phrase, so they spin the wheel and then they spin the ball. And it's like, place your bets, no more bets, hands off the table or whatever, and basically that's it. So he went through his spiel, and this Chinese lady, and I'll never forget it, she basically went, and you can't see this, obviously, if you listen on, but I've got to say, she basically went, and she moved the chips onto this number. and she bet £1,000 on a single number, which is 36 to 1 or whatever it is. And some people will say, well, she's betting £1,000 on a 36 to 1, she can probably afford to lose that. And she may be right. They may be right. She might have been. That might have been to her 50p to me, or whatever it was. And the number hit. And I remember the reaction of the woman. She's like, yeah, going a bit mental. And I remember the croupier guy, and he just sort of glanced up at what is known as the pit manager. So he would oversee 2 or 3 different tables. And the pit manager went, and I apologise again if you're listening to this, but basically the pit manager went, and he shook his head. And the guy, the croupier, went, and he just slid the £1,000 chip back to the lady because it's a dead bet. Effectively, he was saying it wasn't placed in time. She went fudging ballistic, and I mean, what the fudge, it's £1,000 at 36 to 1, so she's going to get 37 grand back. And whether she can afford to lose that or not, that is, to me, still the biggest single bet, stroke loss, stroke win I've seen live.
Yeah.
Anyway, so cut to the chase, like a minute later, there's a bit of a ruckus, and security come out. So and basically they take this woman back to the security room, and obviously everything's on replay. So everything's on replay, everything's on camera, and they replay the audio and stuff. And I don't know, 5 minutes later or whatever, she comes back to the table basically with the sort of tail between her legs, and she just sort of sat down there like dead meek, and you're like, yeah, you didn't win that lid, did you? She's like, no. And basically she bet it. But you're talking like fractions of a second too late. Fractions. And I suppose, that's one of my sort of funny stories. She didn't lose anything, she got the bet back, it wasn't placed in time, but it's that she could have won 36, 37 grand, and that's the biggest.
Yeah, it's a lot of cash.
And look, I genuinely feel sorry for people who are caught with an addiction, and I know there are various clinics around that recognise gambling as an addiction. I know the NHS recognises it as an addiction, and even though I have an addictive personality, I'm not, I'm not at that stage where I would risk livelihood, car, house, whatever it may be, just the thrill of the bet.
No.
Having said that, that's not to say that in the past I haven't bet.
No.
And I will continue to bet. And I do bet, and I bet on football. I have a couple of online accounts that, and I will bet on football. I'll bet horses and stuff. So I do bet, but it's betting that I have a handle on.
It's well within your limits.
It's within my limits. I've got an account, and I've said to Jenny, so when that's gone. I won't. That's it. It's gone, and it hasn't gone for the last 3 years, whatever. But when that's gone, that's gone. And I won't deposit anymore because I can't afford it, unless your magic numbers come in, and that's a whole different kettle of fish sort of thing. But
it is.
Which is worrying, because then does that just mean you bet more sort of thing? But anyway, yeah, you take my point that, I'm not going to risk what I have, what is in front of me, just to chase a bet.
It's funny you say that though, when we talk about the lottery as well, because it's not just the National Lottery anymore. It's not just Camelot who run that. You've got
the health lottery. You've got postcode lottery.
You do postcode lottery, don't you, Andy?
Won a couple of times, haven't I?
You have won a couple of times. Kim keeps trying to get me to do it.
I do postcode lottery.
Do you do postcode lottery? There's only 4 houses on the old street, isn't there?
Correct.
So you'll be all right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
So postcode lottery, is it £10 a month? Is it?
Yeah.
So £10 a month, and basically they draw a postcode, and if your postcode comes up, you get, depending on the type of draw, is it like £1,000 or something? If it's a super draw, then like everybody that's in your street that has the same postcode,
you get to meet Jeff Brazier.
Yeah, or Cheryl Baker, is that another one?
Oh, Cheryl Baker, Bucks Fizz.
But yeah, making mine up, yeah. There's target audience for kids. Google it, folks.
That's it, yeah. Eurovision 1989 or whatever it was.
Was it that? Was it then?
I don't know.
That would be minted. That was the year.
That was right. Then. I didn't know it. It was luck. I should have put money on it.
But yeah, so basically, if there's like a super drawing, is it a 10,000 or 20 or 30,000 pound draw or whatever. So if it's within your constituency, basically they draw it out, and if they then divide that payout by the number of people with the same postcode as you that play. So we've obviously only got 4 houses that have got the same postcode as us. So if we're the only house that plays and that postcode gets drawn for that particular draw, we could win it. But if obviously there's 2 houses, then you split it halves and so on. But I haven't won anything yet, but apparently the odds of winning the postcode lottery are slightly better than the national lottery. So, yeah.
Here's a question then. Because whenever we do an episode on anything, I always have a bigger idea for a second episode following it up. And you mentioned it earlier, Blackjack 21. We've seen the film. We talked about the film. Stars one of your favourite actors.
It does.
Kevin Spacey.
Not Morgan Freeman.
Not Morgan Freeman, no, yeah, that's it. 21 part 2, maybe we'll get him in it. But he could be in the remake of the film of us doing 21. Is that something we could do? Could we card count? I'll have to lay off the beer and the whiskey and falling down the stairs.
I'll be absolutely honest. I've tried.
Have you really?
No chance.
Really?
I haven't got memory capacity for it. I don't know the techniques. I don't know. And I know you try.
It's adding for face cards and 10 plus and taking away, and then when you're plus 15, then you know that's the time to gamble. Or minus 15.
Yeah. But I was always told it was tell a story. So, and this goes back to my old A-level psychology days. So it's to do with recollection and it's to do with telling a story. So rather than giving you random words. And the guy in the lecture that we went to, he gave us random words. He said, right, how many of these random words can you remember, like 4 hours later or whatever? And it's like, and there were 20 words, and most people got 10, 12 of these words. Anyway, the following day, he gave us 20 different words, but told us a story about those words. And then 4 hours later said, how many of you can remember those words? And like most people got 17, 18, 19 out of 20. And you might miss the odd one. And I've also heard a flip side where basically you associate words with rooms in your house. So as you go in on the right hand side, you got a lounge. In the lounge there is there's a mug, there's a beer, there's a phone. Right, okay, so then you come out the lounge and then you go up the stairs and right, what was in the lounge? Well, there's a mug, there's a beer, there's a phone. Yeah, and you associate stories with, and
we see with card counting, the idea is basically, and it's the cards less than 10 and the cards more than 10. So then you add one and you take one away, and when you're so many plus or minus, whichever one you bet because you know the likelihood of a high value card coming up where you're going to win money off. But the trouble is, obviously, with everything else going on in the casino, it's keeping track of doing it. I would be fascinated. I would love to have a go of that. So I don't gamble. I have played 21 in Circus, $3 a hand. Put down $30, lost all 10 hands.
You lost all 10 hands?
Oh, yeah, it's quite difficult to do that, as I say.
Dude, what are you doing?
I'm rubbish.
So I play blackjack. I generally play roulette if I'm in a casino, so I'll generally play roulette, but I have played blackjack and stuff. Have I tried to count cards? Yeah, because everybody that plays does, because unless I'm mistaken, you don't shuffle the cards. So if there's a blackjack comes out, then you shuffle. But if a blackjack doesn't come out, you don't. Correct. Having said that, I think they play with 3 decks.
3 decks, yeah.
So that's quite challenging.
So
they deal them.
If you're doing the pluses and the minuses, though,
it doesn't really make a difference how many decks. Yeah.
The likelihood.
So I was trying to remember like 3 of clubs, 5 of hearts, 7 of spades, king of diamonds, and then you're like, okay. And then like 10 minutes later, like Three Diamonds comes out, like, what the fudge was next to that? But and literally, like you sitting there like, so used to like, yeah, I'm just trying to remember, like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, and you've got, I genuinely, I was like, I can't do it.
I'd be interesting to do that, wouldn't it?
If I had
three of us at a table, Andy in a wig, me in a big hat, Gaz, you grow a beard.
I can do that. Maybe not like Andy's, but
but it'd be strange if you could.
If I knew the technique,
we'd watch 21 a couple of times first.
It is quite good, that film.
It is an excellent film, but it sets it out.
I tell you what, as well,
fairly straightforward.
Rain Man could be worth watching as well.
Rain Man, but
it's not 21, is it? But...
Arguably the best sort of poker film, gambling film. So Rounders is decent, which is, if you've never seen it, it's decent. I think it's Matt Damon and
Morgan Freeman with you if you'd watched it. Imagine.
No. Who's the guy? No, who was the American History X? And
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton.
Oh, that's the other one of his favourite.
Edward Norton. So there you go. So it's, I think it's Edward Norton and Matt Damon. I think, and it's decent, and it talks about, and it does delve into a little bit about the addictive side of.
What does it really?
Trying to sort of chase wins and that sort of stuff, and they're poker players and they're poker hustlers.
Because 21 just makes it look cool, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah, but it isn't really, is it? Because the amount of people that look at that think, "Oh, that sounds quite easy," and then they go and do it, and then they end up. Yeah, so
I can do that.
And look, Hollywood can dramatise everything, but Rounders is decent because it does touch on, actually, rather than glamorizing it, it does touch on sort of actually the flip side, that what you can lose and what you had and then what you can lose and stuff. It's excellent, and I'm pretty sure it's Edward Norton and Matt Damon. I'm pretty sure, but it is very good. So go and watch it if you can. But yeah, gambling for me is, have I got demons? No. Could I? No. Go back and ask me this question 25 years ago. Yeah, probably.
Interesting. I'll be honest, this has been a far more somber episode than I had planned, actually. I thought we'd have a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, but still very, very valid in everything that we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I gamble, so and I don't mind admitting that I gamble. I have always gambled, sort of going back from fruit machines through to, online a bit of poker, and then the odd sort of live poker, and then obviously now various betting, kind of football and horses and that sort of stuff. Am I in control of it? Yes. Does it rule my life? No. But I can see how, for some people, it could, and that actually is a pretty terrifying thought for me. And I'm very lucky, obviously, I have got a handle on it. And lots of people gamble and don't get it wrong, it's great. You meet with your mates down the pub Saturday afternoon, you put some money on, 10 pence on a football coupon or whatever, you're like, woo! And it's great, and the buzz is brilliant. But the flip side to that is, if you let it run away with you, that's quite dark. And yeah, didn't expect it to go down this route, if I'm honest.
No, but I think it's interesting and it's worthwhile for doing so. So then, we're getting close to the hour mark then, so let's just quickly wrap this episode up by saying, let's just share, just as a perspective, what's the most you've won, what's the most you've lost? If you're happy to share it, both of you. Andy, stop smirking.
In terms of one bet, 250, 300 quid, probably on a horse race.
Fair play.
So it's basically like a double. So you'd have I'd chuck a tenner on it, and it was like a 9-1 in the first race and a 10-1. And don't get people shout out, "Oh, you should have got a lot more than that," or whatever. And I don't remember the exact odds, but yeah, multiple £100s. Football wise, probably an acca, so a 5 or 6 match acca that's probably won 250, 300 quid in terms of football. How much have I lost in one sitting? Probably a casino. Probably going in thinking not thinking I was going to lose, but maybe having £100 in my pocket, thinking I could probably afford to lose that. Maybe losing another 150, 200 quid. So maybe sort of 300 quid in a sitting or whatever. But that would be like that would be like an NFL weekend. I wouldn't just rock up to
that's just not
getting the local casino and go, oh, there goes 300 quid. That would be there's a weekend with the lads. I've gone to casino. I've probably overindulged.
Yeah, my mate's just falling down the stairs.
My mate's fallen down the stairs. He's now looking like a hobo in there. I've lost Andy because he's just walking around in the loop. So that's just that's an event a weekend. But yeah, maybe I'll say 300 quid, and of that, maybe 150 to 200 quid would be more than
you would have expected.
I would have expected.
Andy?
I think most of them won thinking back to roulette and stuff like that, it's probably like 80 quid in a wanna, but then over the night it's probably 250 something. And I think I probably spent the same, to be honest. But I always think back to two people from in my past anyway. And one guy, we went into when I was in the army, went into this NAFI area where there's like a row of bandits, and I was like, me and mate went in there just to see if we can empty them, like you do. And there's a guy in there, and he like won the 250 quid jackpot, and I was like, oh shit, how much did you put in there? And then he goes, 240 quid. So that's always put me off, like spending big, because he's gone down that rabbit hole of going, well, I put 50 quid in, I might as well keep going. I put 200 quid in, I might as well keep going. And in the end, it worked out well. Yeah, he was up a tenner. But
yeah,
the other one is a guy who was doing online roulette, and I think he had like 50 quid. He won like 500 quid or something like in this. I don't know if it was off one spin or in a sitting whatever. He had 500 quid anyway. Went and made a brew, come back. I was like, oh, how much money you got now? Then he goes, nothing. I just bet it all on red and lost it all. And it's like, it's just two things that always stick in my head. Is like, one, not falling down the hole of, just throwing money at something to try and win back. And also, once you've got a decent sum, just stop. And that's probably why I do it quite controlled. But yeah, them two stories just bring a smirk to my face.
And if you are capable of doing that 100%, but I do get for some people that they haven't got that off switch. And Andy, you've got it, so you'd be like, I'm prepared to bet 100 quid. Oh shit, I've got 300 in my pocket. Right, that's it. Now I'm 200 quid up. That can pay for me and Amy for a weekend away, or that can pay for next year.
I have it because I have an alcohol addiction.
Yeah, so you might think, I'll go and have a couple of extra beers, whatever. But for somebody that hasn't got that off switch, that's quite worrying for me. Not because I haven't got an off switch, because I have. But
it's not a thing you can just turn off. It's something you got to coach and train yourself to get out.
Yeah, and it's all about that. Don't chase the bet and all that. And I suppose knowing what I was like when I was a kid with fruit machines. Now knowing what I'm like now as a 47-year-old guy who still bets, I'm glad that I've now got that off switch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I've got that, because I think actually, whilst I do have quite an addictive personality, I think it would have been quite easy for me to have gone down the route of not quite reckless abandon, but actually
life lesson learned.
Yeah, I've loads of times I've been like, actually, shit, I can't afford to do that. Well, why not? Well, actually, I just spent 40 quid on fruit machine or whatever, and I'm now happy I'm happy gambling. That's the wrong phrase, but what I bet is relative to what I can afford, and I never go beyond that, and I never overextend myself, sort of thing. So I suppose that's a lesson for me. And look, again, TBR listeners, if anybody is out there that has struggled with addiction, I would say please try and get some advice from the professionals. But if you are, and you do gamble, or you have gambled, and you are willing to share perhaps just a tiny little bit of your story, get in touch with us. We're more than happy to chat with you, to have you on, talk about your experiences and stuff. Or if you've got some funny stories about how you won big or whatever.
Both sides of the coin.
Both sides of the coin, yeah. I think for me, and it is a bit weird because whether or not this was what we expected in terms of, it was quite a somber sort of episode. If there is anybody struggling with gambling addiction, absolutely go and seek some advice.
Yeah, the Gamblers hotline number then, if you do ever want to ring it, if you're based in the UK, is 0330 094 0322.
Give it a call, guys, and there'll be people there that can sort of chat to you and hopefully put you on this sort of road to recovery as such. But yeah, a slightly more somber episode, I suppose, than maybe gambling. We didn't really talk about lots of things to do with gambling, but
we could do a second episode.
And look, I'm more than happy to share my sort of personal experiences about it. And I know out of the three of us, I probably gambled and still gamble the most. So, but yeah, if anyone's got any stories, any personal experiences, anything they want to share with us, then please get in touch with us.
Cool. And thank you, Gary, actually, for sharing those personal experiences, because when we actually said we were going to do this episode, that isn't one of the things that we looked at doing or sharing, so it's very, very much appreciated. But I did say to Gaz and Andy, it's not something I've got an awful lot of experience doing, so this would be an episode that's more, the ball would be more in their court. So let's say our goodbyes. Andy?
Yeah, it was an interesting one.
It was an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully the next one's more upbeat.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get Weaver back on that. Those are fairly entertaining. I apologise if I've sort of made anybody feel a little bit morose or whatever. I just want to share my experiences with it, really. It's something that I've dealt with as I have dealt with it, but not I suffer with. But I just wanted to go through a couple of experiences that I've had. Really, that was all. So I hope you find it sort of interesting, and it, as I say, if anybody is struggling with it, then get in touch with the relevant people, because I know it's a massive issue, and it affects thousands of people. So I'll say my goodbyes. Cheers, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. And until the next time, see you later. Cool. And again, I think the story's worth telling. So it's always an interesting, when we set out to do a podcast, we never know which way it's going to go. So I've enjoyed this one. I found it very interesting, and hopefully we've shared some stuff that will resonate with other people, and I look forward to hearing the feedback from that. Now, Weaver shared a story on his last episode when he told the tale of the Cheshire, where we live, as the most millionaires per capita. And Denise Coates lives just around the corner from us, doesn't she?
She does.
Denise Coates of Bet365. Congratulations to you, because you've done very well, and it's great to see female CEOs of companies doing very well. But in terms of a betting company, when we talk about the money that's at stake that you could lose, last year she earned £323 million. Well done on that front, I'll say that to her, because it's more than I earn by quite a considerable margin. So until next time, when no doubt we'll have plenty more stuff to talk about. Take care.